Welcome to today's class. I thought we would do a changed sequence of teaching. I was going to start with meditation as we were doing it every other week and then have the class. But in thinking about it, I thought that we would learn some concepts from the Mandukya Karika today and then do meditation on those concepts after we learn those concepts. So we would alter the sequence. So I thought what we might do is let us do the Shanti mantras, the 10 Shanti mantras that we normally do. And then I think I'll spend just a few minutes explaining what I had started last week, which is an explanation of each of the verses. And we're going to do maybe about 5 or 10 minutes of explanation of the very first one, Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha. Just so that if people are late to the class, if they are expecting that the class will begin at 8:30, we will actually go over some of that. Then after that we will begin the Mandukya Karika class, and then at the end we will do the meditation. So change sequence a little bit. So with that, let us start the prayers and do the 10 Shanti mantras also, and then a few minutes of explanation of the first Shanti mantra, and then we will begin our regular class. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvannivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururithya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnururukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yas Chandasa Mrishabho Vishwarupaha Chandobhyodhyamrita sambabhuva Samendro medhaya asprunotu Amritasya devadharano bhuyasam Shariram me vicharshanam Jihva me madhumattama Karna abhyam bhuri vishruvam Brahmanav koshosi medhaya pihitaha Shrutam me gopaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Aham Rikshasya Reriva Kirtif prishtam gireriva urdhapavitro vajiniva svamritamasmi dravina kumsavarchasam sumedha amritokshitaha iti trishankor vedanu Om Shanti 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 Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Apyayantu mama angani Vakpranaschakshuhu shrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam brahma upanishadam Maham brahma nirakarot Amirakaranamastu anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateyo upanishatsu dharmaha Te mai santu Om Shanti 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 Vang me manasi pratisthita Mano me vachi pratishthitam Avir ma edhi Vedasya maani isthaha Shrutam me ma prahasihi Anenadhitena Ahoratran sandadhami Ritam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaram avatu mam avatu vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Yo Brahmanam vidadhati purvam Yo vai vedamscha prahinoti tasmai Tamha devamatma buddhi prakasham Mumukshur mai aham prapadye Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I think I may have made a mistake on the sixth mantra. Let me double check it, yeah. So I skipped the Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. Mama Brahma Nirakarot. When I was pronouncing it, I thought I had skipped something. So yeah, that was a mistake. And that's been happening to me. I have to just automatically put my mind on it as I pronounce it, so I don't skip it. What we had started last time was the explanation of the Shanti mantras, starting with Shanno Mitraha Sham Varunaha. So we were going over the meaning of the word Mitraha. So Mitraha here means, normally in the vernacular languages and even in Sanskritam, means a friend. And so that is the main meaning of the word Mitraha. However, the word Mitraha also has a lot of technical meanings within the Vedas. And so this is all given in great detail by Swami Maheshananji. And it may be too long to go over this in complete detail, but let me give you some highlights of it as to what the technical meaning of the word Mitra in the Vedas is. So to give you a summarized version of that, in addition to Ishvara's being the friend, as we went over last time, here the word Mitra refers to the Devata during the daytime. And so we will visit in Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha, Shanno Varyama, etc. the various helping Devatas in all aspects of our lives. And here the Mitraha also refers to the Devata during the day. And the main Devata during the day is the Surya, the sun. And so the sun is one which really makes my life go and is very helpful to me. This has been very carefully designed by Ishvara, so the Ishvara is in the form of the sun helping us. How? Well, all we have to do is to just think about it. Without light, imagine what our life will be. Just imagine that. So you have taken a vow to be born here as a living being. So vow means that you decided, okay, I am now ready for the next version of my life, which is this life. And for this, then there's a lot of arrangements that are made. Your past karmas are examined. The arrangement for the right set of father and mother that will give you birth in a particular situation is done. All of that happens. And so you take a birth and we are here. But imagine now that we are here, let's say it's difficult to even visualize this. Supposing you are born and there is no sun, there's no light. Amazing. How would life would be? So we take it for granted. Of course there is sun, of course there is light. So what else is there? But Shanno Mitra means I really appreciate your friendship. You're taking care of me. Not only light, but then the heat. Without the heat, imagine it'll be minus 373 degrees Fahrenheit. You frozen beyond you cannot even believe. And not only that, the entire ecosystem that gives you the rains, the various forms of winter, the climate change, all of that is carefully designed to give you the right thing. So for example, as you know very well, that before the rains come, especially in the monsoon aspect of India, there is tremendous heat in the summertime. That's carefully designed so that there is more evaporation, and the seawater is now evaporated and builds into clouds, and it gives you rain. So that also is part of Surya itself. The Surya creates the water and the rains for you. And so it is constantly looking after you at all times. And so as that, it is the Mitra. So this is the summary of all the Vedic technical things. There's lots of other things that go on to this, but and in fact, Swami Maheswaranji says that even the Shakti which frees you from a life of samsara is possible only by having the right kind of mind, which is only possible if it is given the right food, which is only possible if the health is good. All those kinds of things that free you from the samsara are governed and helped by Surya. So, as I've often talked about in terms of my background as a computer designer, is the central processing unit of the entire computer is the Surya. From here, all the things emanate and make sure that they are all functioning very well. So this is an important one. Mitra, Shanno Mitra. Then the next one is Sham Varuna. Sham Varuna. So I will just talk a little bit about Varuna, and then we will proceed on the rest of it next time. So Varuna has two aspects of the meaning. One is Varana and one is Avarana. One is Varana and one is Avarana. So Varana means the one that makes the sankalpa that this person needs to be taken care of. This is called Varana. And also water. So we talked about the Surya generating the clouds and so on, but the actual functioning of the water as not just as a cloud, but as a water is also Varuna. And the water has amazing qualities. The most important one is that it purifies. It even in your dishes, etc. You need water to purify it, and even in your own impurities of your mental impurities of raga dvesha and so on and so forth, you have to ask for Varuna for protecting you from it. Then another one is Avarana. So the Avarana is the one where it hides the truth from yourself, but then it gives you certain pleasure despite the fact that your Swarupa is hidden from you. And so the most important of that is the night time. In night time, you have lots of problems, but Varuna disassociates you from the problems. And so in that sense, Swami Maheswaranji says that Varuna is the equivalent of Surya at night time. So it is the master of hiding things from you so that you're not bothered by it. And so that is the functioning of Ishvara in two aspects, both during the day, Mitra, and during the evening and night time, which is Varuna. So anyway, I will. There's lots of other details that I won't have an occasion to go through. I'll probably do that some other time. But we will go on to the next one, which is Aryama. Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatu Aryama. And so the meaning of the third aspect of this verse, Aryama, we will see next time. Okay, so with that, let us start our class. So we were in the last class, let me see. with where the beginning is. Yeah, so I think we have pretty much gone up to verse number 60, right? Okay. So with that in mind, let us start verses 61 and hopefully we'll go all the way up to 67 and let's see how far we progress. So chapter 4, Alata Shanti Prakaranam, verse number 61. So in verses 61 and 62, there is a pardon me, a continuation of the main thought of the Karika, which is the explanation of the Mandukya Upanishad, is to continue to hammer home the point that the main prakriya in your life, the main method of analyzing your experiences, the main method of teaching yourself the truth and so on, is to begin to see the similarities between the waking state and the dream state. See, we are very good at understanding the differences between them. And we are very adept at it and we are very used to doing it. So we say, the dream is a dream and why do I have to bother about that? That is gone. My main function is the waking state. This is our attitude is. So we rely upon and we emphasize the differences between the two states. And this is to be revisited. With the help of the Shastra says, listen, there is something missing, as we saw in this example that somebody's cow was stolen, and you should look into finding the lost cow in a structured manner, lingam. It was here also just a revision that we have lost something. We have lost our sense of unconditional joy. This is what we are looking for, everyone. Like everyone has their cow stolen. Because the cow represents the asset of a human being in the old days, even now in the villages. It's a very important asset. This is why the cow as a mother, she is, you talk about, we should, in other Shanno Mitra, we should say Shan cow. Shan gau. Gau and cow. Imagine the two of them are so similar. Anyway, so the cow represents sukham. It helps you in so many different ways. So we've lost it. So really speaking, the sense of freedom, we have lost it. And we are confused as to where to find it. And so the importance of Mandukya and the Karika is that I'll tell you where to find it. And I'll tell you how to find it. How to find it is to hammer home the similarities of the waking and the dream state, not the differences. The differences are obvious. This is called Prakrita Buddhi. Prakrita Buddhi means that it is a natural, uneducated. Prakrita Buddhi means uneducated. You take something for granted without understanding what it is. But a Prakrita Buddhi has to be made into a Samskrita Buddhi. That it has to be properly understood and known. And that is the similarity of the Jagrat Avastha with the Swapna Avastha. And ultimately you abandon all the other methodologies in life and really concentrate on this. It is not going to be easy, because your mind will protest and it says, what are you talking about? Are you sure? What similarity are you talking about? I don't understand this. All of that will come. But you just have to barrel ahead, and because that is the truth. Because we know the difference between Brahma and Prama. So Brahma means that it looks like the truth from a distance, but the closer you approach it, it goes away. And Prama is just the opposite. From a distance it looks like it is not true, but the closer you come it becomes true. And so similarly here also, the similarity between the Jagrat Avastha and Swapna Avastha at first looks like, what similarity are you talking about? They're totally different. But Shastra says, proceed along. Go near it. Go near this similarity and think over it. Learn. Repeat it. And practice it. All of those kinds of things. So if you do that, then you will find that your Jagrat Avastha will also appear to you as a Swapna Avastha. And this we are going to talk about in more detail in a minute, and we will do a meditation on this also. Some very interesting concept that is being pointed out. But just to start on that, verse number 61 and 62 says, Yatha swapne dvaya bhasam chittam chalati mayaya tatha jagrat dvaya bhasam chittam chalati mayaya. Then in number 62 it says, Advayam cha dvaya bhasam chittam swapnena samshayaha Advayam cha dvaya bhasam tatha jagrat na samshayaha. So the English translation of those two is that the mind spins a seeming duality in the waking state through Maya, just as the mind spins a seeming duality in a dream through the Maya. And then number 62, the non-dual mind alone is the seeming duality in the dream. There is no doubt. In the same way, the non-dual mind alone is the seeming duality in the waking state. There is no doubt. Again, the similarity is talked about, and Swami Paramarthananda said that the same verses also appear in the third chapter, Advaita Prakaranam. I think verses number 39 or something. There, instead of Chittam, Manaha is used, but it's pretty much the same. So this is a consolidation and repetition, so that we don't think that it is not important. It is very important to do it this way. So what is being talked about in 61-62 is that the process of dreaming, so go back to the lingam. Lingam means the signs. The signs that give you S-I-G-N-S, not science, but signs. The signs of understanding are from taking the example of the dream where the following process happens. And what happens is that when you transition from, in this case, a Jagrat Avastha, you are getting ready to go to sleep. You're making up your bed, making sure that it's all comfortable, your pillow and your blanket and so on and so forth is all ready to go. You have a singular personality. This is who I am. I'm the one that is going to go to sleep. So this is what is called the non-dual mind. Means it's a single mind. Single personality. Okay? You don't have any doubts about it. Are you two people? What are you talking about, two people? I am me. Okay, fine. Alright, okay. I just wanted to double check it. So non-dual. As soon as you start dreaming, you split yourself into two. And what happens? So you split yourself into two. And what are the two splits? You become dreamer and the dream world that you are watching. So this is exactly what he's saying. See, this is the thing. Yatha swapne dvayabhasam. Dvayabhasam means the twofold experience or the twofold knowledge, if you may. Twofold, not even knowledge, I think that's not the right word, but twofold experience. Chittam chalati mayaya. So, this is just a partial one. The 62 will complete it. So, yatha swapne dvayabhasam chittam chalati mayaya tatha jagrat dvayabhasam chittam chalati mayaya. So he says the same phenomena. So again, emphasizing similarity. The same phenomena where in the dream you have a dual set of experiences. Similarly is the case where you have a dual sense of experiences, and both are due to Maya. The only difference is that in the case of dream, the Maya has outsourced it to you. You are the one who creates this duality. Whereas Maya directly connects with you in the Jagrat Avastha. So small differences there. But the phenomena remains the same. Okay, then in verse number 62 he says, Advayam cha dvayabhasam chittam swapnena samshayaha Advayam cha dvayabhasam tatha jagratna samshaya. So he says, is there any doubt? Don't you see? Isn't it obvious? What is obvious? That the process of dreaming converts a singularity into duality. Advayam cha dvayabhasam chittam swapnena samshaya. Don't you see that? He says the same thing is happening in your Jagrat Avastha. Advayam cha dvayabhasam tatha jagratna samshaya. Anyway, so this is the opening salvo, if you may, of an important concept which is revealed in the next 5 verses. So this is the foundation. This is what is going to, you should keep this in mind. This process of conversion from a singularity into a duality in the swapna, and see the similarity of that happening in the waking state. So this is the This is the foundation. And then the next 5 verses, 63 to 67, is a very important concept that we should learn, and then we will meditate on it today itself to consolidate that. So let's go and now see what that is in 63. So what I might do, I think that is what Swami Paramarthananda has also done. Let me double check it. Hold on just 1 minute. Yeah, I think he's done the same thing. So let's do this. Let me just pronounce verses 63 to 67. And then we will consolidate all the meanings and bring out the central theme, very important theme, not theme, but the important concept of the 63 to 67 as a consolidation of all of them. So let's do that. So I'm just going to pronounce 63 to 67. This is a unit. Then 68 starts a new unit, which we will do next time. 63. Swapradrik pracharan swapne dikshu vai dashatu sthitan andajan svedajan vapi jivan pashyati van sada. 64. Swapnadrik chittadrik दृश्यास्ते न विद्यन्ते ततः पृथक् तथा तद्दृश्यम् एव इदं स्वप्नदृक्वत् चित्तमिष्यते. 65. चरन् जागृते जाग्रत् दिक्षु वै दशतु स्थितान् अंडजान् स्वेदजान् वापि जीवान् पश्यति तान् सदा. 66. जाग्रत चित्ते क्षणीयास्ते न विद्यन्ते ततः पृथक् तथा तद्दृश्यम् एव इदं जाग्रत चित्तमिष्यते. And the last one. उभे हि अन्यः अन्यदृश्येते किं तदस्तीति नोच्यते लक्षणा शून्यमुभयं तन्मतेनैव गृह्यते. So anyway, I won't go into the details of each one of them. So let me just go through the English translation of them. Moving about in dream, this is 63. The dreamer constantly sees various beings born of eggs, born of moisture, etc., existing in all the 10 quarters. I'll explain what is this born with eggs and so on and so forth in a minute. Let's just go through the simple translation. 64. Those beings which are objects of the dreamer's world do not exist apart from that mind. Similarly, the mind of the dreamer is accepted to be the object of the dreamer only. 65. Moving about in the waking state, the waker constantly sees various beings born of eggs, born of moisture, existing in all the 10 quarters. These beings, which are objects of the waker's mind, do not exist apart from that mind. Similarly, the mind of the waker is accepted to be the object of that waker only. And finally, number 67, both of them are indeed mutually perceived. Does either of them exist? No. Thus it is said. Both of them are indefinable. Each one is grasped because of the notion of the other only. Okay. So this is what it is. Okay, so now let us summarize what an important new concept, what this means. Okay, I think somewhere here I saw, I was trying to remember exactly where, I think it was Swami Paramarthananda that pointed that out. So let's start with this concept. When you see something, then don't you see that seeing something assumes that you have an instrument for seeing? So here the thought is the following. Let's take, we have always been talked about seeing. Let's talk about hearing for a minute. The question is, how do you establish the existence of your hearing ability to hear? How do you establish the existence of your ability to hear? This is the question. How do you know that you have an instrument for hearing? The only way you can establish is to hear a sound. Isn't it? When you hear a sound, then you are justified in saying that I can hear. Why? Because I hear a sound. So the sound depends upon your instrument of hearing. And your instrument of hearing depends upon the sound. Because until you use your instrument, it is totally non-existent. It's not, you cannot prove it. You can prove it after you've known that you've had it, you see. Once supposing you see a sound and now you say that I have an ear, and then the sound disappears, you continue to feel that yes, I have a hearing aid. I'm not a hearing aid, but I have a hearing ear, but the sound is not there. There you can say the independence of it. But initially, because now you've gone into an assumption that now that I know that my ear is there, I don't care if the sound is there or not. If there is silence, then I know that I can still hear. That's a different thing altogether. But initially, you cannot establish the fact that you are endowed with hearing until the object of hearing is there, isn't it? This is the point that Gaudapadaji is making. This is the point. Beautiful point. So now the instrument of hearing, or the instrument of seeing as we started with, and the object of hearing or the object of seeing are mutually interdependent. Now, the next thing is, something that is mutually interdependent. Mutually interdependent means A depends on B and the B depends on A. How is that possible? How is that possible? If you can say that the B always depends on A, then you can say A is the truth and B is mithya. But if A depends on the B and the B depends on A, both of them are mithya. You cannot establish that A is always there. You cannot establish that B is always there. Both of them are interdependent. What that means is that both of them depend on something which is not dependent on them. See, this is the important point. Let me state that again. If there are two entities that are mutually dependent, then you cannot establish which one is real, which is unreal. Then what you have to see is, if there is a phenomena like that, where there are two interdependent entities, but yet they have some kind of reality, because it's not shunyam, it is not zero. There is something happening, there is hearing, there is seeing. So something is happening, but the question is, due to what is this phenomena happening? And so therefore we cannot say that the ear and the hearing, or the sound, or the other equivalent, which is the eyes and the forms, they independently have an existence. Therefore it means both of them must be depending on something else. Okay. Now, if that is clear, then we can extend that to our experiences in our life. Why? Because our experiences are caused by our mind. Something is seen to be good and something is seen to be bad is determined by my mind and its thoughts. And you cannot tell there is an existence of the world until you probe that it is due to my mind. In other words, if the world was not there, you will not know that you have a mind. And in fact, this is exactly what happens at deep sleep. Not as though this is the theoretical thing that you have to extend and think about and all that. No. Every day we have the same experience. That if the mind is not there, the world disappears. For you and I. For some other people, it could be there. Doesn't care. I don't care about that. All I'm concerned about is my experiences. And very interestingly enough, there may be things happening, but they don't bother me. They don't bother me at night time. I'm oblivious of that. Complete ignorance. In fact, Swami Dayanand used to say that really just look at this is a very interesting thing the important thing to see. That suppose, God forbid, one of our loved ones has met an accident and is in serious trouble. But it causes no problems to me as long as I don't know it. See, sometimes it say ignorance is bliss. This is the meaning of it. That you just don't know. So what really causes your mind to be activated is a sense of experience and knowledge. Yes, this has happened. So therefore now this concept that the duality of the experiencer experienced, this duality, experiencer and the experience, are mutually dependent, like the sound and the ear. They are mutually dependent. If one disappears, the other one also disappears. So in that sense, one can tell that the reason that you have a mind is because you experience something. And you experience something because you have a mind. Mutual interdependence. This is what the duality comes in. And you cannot prove, if you were to look at a scientific analysis of this, you cannot prove which one came first. They both come together. At least in our waking state, you can say that the way we are manufactured, the way we are born from a embryo and all the way up to, a baby sitting in the womb of the mother and then finally being launched and so on and so forth, then the world starts after that. Eyes open and so on and so forth, and then the whole thing, we know what happens after that. And but in the case of, so this is in the waking state. Okay, so even though there are similarities, there are differences too. So here the differences have to be looked in terms of interpreting similarity. The differences are, as you know well by now, I think we have talked about this many, many times, you don't have time to be born in your dream through a mother. You don't have time. You don't say, I haven't started my dream yet because, I'm still in my mother's womb. You bypass that whole thing. And you instantly become dual. Instantly. And in fact, this is interesting to say that the same thing is true for the creation of the entire universe. Absolutely true. This is what the Vedas have said. That really speaking, one can say, how is it this whole world was created by Ishvara? It must have taken him enormous power, enormous time, enormous effort. He must be tired by now. No. Just like you instantly start the dream, similarly Ishvara at the beginning of each kalpa, when now everything has been down for 100 million years, roughly speaking, the next 100 million years, opens his eyes and the whole creation comes about instantly. No effort on his part. Just like there's no effort on your part to start dreaming, there's no effort on the part of the Ishvara to really do this infinite creation with amazing creation. Not a creation, it's just a way of looking at things. It's a non-creation. We can say that in this class, maybe not in other classes. So this creation, which is a non-creation, is like a dream. You kind of play, and then it disappears. And so the point is that this appearance of the duality of the experiencer and experienced happens automatically, and it is mithya, it is really not real, and it comes about and disappears. So this whole phenomena, as Swami Paramarthananda was saying, in fact I'm reading on this, he says, in starting 63 to 67, he says, Gaudapada highlights one more point about the dream state in the following 5 verses that he has not discussed previously. True. So he overlaps some of the things, 61 to 62, but then the emphasis on the new point is given in 63 to 64. 63 to 67, sorry. Okay. So here the examples given really don't matter, because what in 63, what Gaudapadaji is saying, let's look at 63, where he talks about moving about in the dream, the dreamer constantly sees various beings born. And so here the Vedas say that the beings are born in different ways. There is either born out of an egg, born out of moisture, existence, or through a womb. All their different swings, Andaja, Svedaja, etc. are all there. So he says that just because you see that there are different ways, you see there's a reference here to, no, it's not here. That's so interesting. I was reading this in the 13th chapter of Panchadashi, where something similar is talked about. There it says, it gives the example of a serpent born out of an egg. So Swami Meshananji says, why is he talking about a serpent? Because the fact of the matter is that supposing you have this enormous, not just a small snake, but an enormous python. Huge. I had one experience of a python where in the place where my dad was working in Bihar, we were living in a he was a coal mining manager. He was an official of a coal mine, and we were living in a bungalow, really beautiful bungalow, in the middle of nowhere. There was really forest area, so we had so many snakes and so on. So one time there was, and usually you find the presence of snakes by the birds loudly chirping. Normally they just chirp about some things, I need food and where are you? They have their own language. But if they are threatened by a serpent or a snake, then they have a shrill voice, and we all recognize it. As soon as the birds start shrilly talking, then we know there is a snake. Anyway, one time there was one of the workers in the area said, "Hey, my gosh, there is a python." And what this python did was to wrap himself around a tree. You know why he did that? Maybe he was looking for some eggs or something. I remember that so well. That python must have been about 10 or 12 feet long. And it had, of course, when we saw it, it was like flat like this. So it was like a pancake. But if he had extended it, it was like 6 inches around. And what to do with it? Oh my gosh, there was such a brouhaha. And then finally a gun was brought in. And he was shot because nobody was willing to go near him. And then once he died, then we sent his skin to a taxidermist to make shoes out of it. I remember this so well. I was like about 10 or 12 years old at that time. Anyway, then I saw a video in the Amazon River. There are serpents that are 40 feet long, not just 10 feet long. Huge, dangerous looking things. So Swami Vidyaranya points out that in the Vedas it says, at one time this enormous serpent, which is so scary, was born into a small egg, just this much. Maybe a slightly bigger egg, I don't know. Anyway, so the point of giving all of these examples of eggs and so on and so forth by Gaudapadacharya ji is to say that really you have a sense of fear and reality about the Jagrat Avastha, but he says the same thing is true in the dream state too. There also you see things being born in various ways. You're a little vague about it, you make your own creation. Here it is done by Ishvara, so it looks more real, but it's pretty much the same. But that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Really, when it just once under the light of wisdom, it all disappears. It ceases to bother you. And it just doesn't have any effect on you whatsoever. So that's the point that these verses are making. So I'll just quickly read it and then I'll wrap up and then do the meditation. So in 63 he says, moving about in dream, the dreamer constantly sees various beings born out of eggs, etc. And the same thing is, I think I won't go into this, all of that. In the end, so I'll just do the last one. He says in 67, Ubhehi anyaha anya drishyate te kim tadasti iti cha uchyate lakshana shunyam ubhayam tat matena eva grihyate. He says both of them are indeed mutually perceived. The dreamer and the dreamt, experiencer and the experience. Does either of them exist? No. This is being said. Both of them are indefinable and is grasped because of the notion of the other only. That's it. They are just mutually dependent. One is dependent on the other one is dependent on the first one. There is no reality to it. So, let us encapsulate this fact. So this is an important concept that we should really think about and meditate on. And what is that? We might as well just do this practice this in the Nididhyasanam for the next few minutes, and then we'll wrap up the class. So let's start by doing that. Om प्रातर्स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। Following the teaching of Gaudapadaji's Karika, I tried to see my life and my experiences in terms of the model of the dream. The dream example is important because it has been specifically and specially designed by Ishvara for us to gain freedom while I am alive. One of the powers of Ishvara the enormous power of Ishvara one of the powers is to hide the natural freedom of the Atma. And this hiding of the Swarupa of the Atma also has some hints given to uncover the self-ignorance, the hiding. Self-ignorance as though hides myself from myself. And to reveal the truth about myself, some hints are given. This is the game. And the hints are in the form of seeing that even though my swarupa, my innate nature is non-duality, singularity, I hide myself by being caught up in the sense of duality. Just like I am caught up in the appearance of a dream, in the dream world, I split up my non-duality, my singularity into a duality. As a dream character and the dream experience. Both the dreamer and the dreamt are mutually dependent. Upon analysis, any two entities that are mutually dependent are like a pattern generated by the glowing tip in the dark. There is no reality. The only substance, the reality, is the glowing tip. Similarly, I meditate upon how how my singularity of a glowing tip is turned into a pattern of experiences in my dream. Once this process is seen clearly, I begin to see the similarity of this process in my waking state. The mind, my personality, and the world around me are mutually dependent. The world, my set of experiences, are seen to be unpleasant if my mind is sad. And vice versa. If the world around me is unpleasant, my mind becomes sad. These may be my experiences, but they are not real. They are not the final word. Like a dream, they frighten me, they entertain me, but there is no reality. They eventually will disappear. The singularity of myself as the Atma, as the Turiya, as the Paramatma, makes both of these dual parts possible. This is the situation. How exactly this happens and how one extricates oneself from this phenomena, we will look into in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Swasti Prajabhyav Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Kshekte Shoyam Kshobarahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Is the situation. So Srinivas asks, so to what extent the unpleasant experiences are to be dealt with in the Jagrata Avastha, and sometimes they occupy the whole thinking while going through them, but after they are over it is easy to write off as mind's doing. Yeah, so that's true. It's when something it's like a storm. If there is a storm, you have to shut off your windows and hatches and just let it blow over. There's nothing much you can do. These things happened, and you can make it worse by blaming everybody, blaming yourself, whatever it is. You can extend the remnants of any experiences. You can continue to do that, but the best thing is to say it's something that happened, and more and more you develop while even the unpleasant experiences are going on, you develop what is called kavacham. So this word kavacham is used. Kavacham is really kind of like it's like a bulletproof vest is called a kavacham. that even though while there is some fighting going on and there might be some firing, but as long as you have some protection, then you may be injured, but hopefully you can survive. So something similar to that. So the kavacham here is the teaching, and the process that I think might happen for a person is that before the introduction to the teaching, you you participate fully in the unpleasant experiences and all the repercussions that it has on you. You're confused, you're unhappy, you make things even unhappier by acting. All those kinds of things happen. And then as you begin to travel through the stages of teaching, then you develop a certain kavacham where at first maybe you're not completely immune to the unpleasant experiences, but you limit it, and you create a self-awareness that might, and so I remember in my own experiences was that there is a certain like a smile that comes through and says, oh my goodness, why is this happening? And so just create a little bit of a space between your experiences and yourself as the evaluator of the experiences. But still it will happen for a while, and then it improves. You'll see your experiences become less injurious to you. They don't really, you're not flattened by it as much. So this is the process that one has to go through. And then eventually at the end you find that when the teaching has fully taken its effect, and you have deserved, and through it takes a lot of effort and so on and so forth, you will begin to see that it becomes like a joke. Things happen, things go away. So it's kind of like, when you get injured, yes, you take some, you put some ointment on and so on and so forth, but you don't think too much about it. You don't say, why is this thing happening to me, and why me, and all those kinds of things. It just goes away. And so this is the process. And so finally, the people who are Mahatmas, Jivan Muktas, they do not have any sense of connection between their bodies and minds and themselves. Nothing at all. There's no pain, no suffering, nothing. And they have completely disassociated. So it is often pointed out that it's very possible that, supposing, even if there is a Mahatma who has really understood the whole thing very well, and supposing somebody insults him, and physical violence is not generally there, but mental violence is there. Somebody insults them very badly. That you think you are a big guy and you this, that, or the whatever. And it's very possible that the Mahatma's mind may react against it and say, why is he saying that? I don't understand this. What have I done to him? This kind of a thing. But the Mahatma, even in that state, is able to see that it is my mind who is upset, not me. That separation is very clear and very, very real, very real to that person. Anyway, these are the stages that one goes through. It's not a simple thing. Kalyan Raman, sound is not created by the ear, but experience in its existence is authenticated by the ear. Is that similar to how the Manas, the master of the five senses, creates the Prapancham? Yeah, so in the So Kalyan, there's a slight difference here between what you say between the Jagrat Avastha and the Swapna Avastha. So in the dream state, Swapna Avastha, even the existence of the dreamt world is created by the mind. You see? So the mind is the one that really creates both the dreamer as well as the dreamt, both of them. But in the Jagrat Avastha, there is an externality to the experiences, which I did not create. But nevertheless, the way I interpret it depends upon the vaccination of the mind. Yes. So, for instance, that often happens that other people do not see something as being bad, but you and I might see it as being bad because of the coloring of the mind. So the mind does have some effect on how it labels the experiences. But the experiences themselves were already there by Ishwaras. And so it's the slight difference between them in that sense. This fact we will explore a little bit more in the next class. So if you can, it's not a complete one. Okay. Shanti Kumar says, I did not understand how the world and the dream world is dependent on the waker and the dreamer. So, I think what I said, Shanti Kumarji, is that in the dream world, let's take the dream world first. In the dream world, both parts of the dream, and so this is the one area that we need to sort of emphasize in our mind, that there are two parts of the dream, which is the dreamer and the dreamt. Both are dependent on the waker's singular identity in that example. Okay, both of them are dependent on the singularity. The singularity of the waker gives rise to the duality of the dreamer and the dreamt. Okay, so that's in the dream. Now, in the case of the waking state, we also see a duality similar to the dream. We see I am an experiencer and I see there are experiences. So these two, similar to the analysis of the dream, are created by Turiya. And eventually they will cancel each other out and disappear, and the Turiya alone remains. So that's how their dependency between those two occur. I hope that makes it slightly clearer. If not, then please either ask now or send me an email and I can send you more. Kalyan says, on Mitra I also read it derived as Mitra plus Ramayati, enjoys in moderation with you or enjoyable in moderation. Did Swami Maheshananji Giri also discuss that? No, I don't think the moderation part was emphasized in Swami Maheshananji's example. I will reread it, Kalyan, one more time. This very dense 2 paragraphs on this Mitra again one more time, just to see. But I don't recall as the enjoys in moderation, enjoyable in moderation. No, that part I don't remember seeing that. And I'm not sure to what degree that the moderation is relevant because the moderation comes from our own deserving. So, for instance, the sun shines equally for everybody, But a criminal might take advantage of that to rob someone. Is not meant to be. It is only possible because the sun shines on the criminal. And so the moderation or the lack thereof is dependent on the kartritvam and bhoktritvam. But as a mitra, it blesses everybody. That's the way I would just interpret this whole thing. Okay, all right. So that is the last of the questions. Then I'll take your leave and I will hopefully see you next Saturday. Om.